Hello Trophy Hunters, Tanya here and welcome back to the channel. Now first impressions are so important. It has been said that humans form their first impression on someone within the first 5 seconds of meeting them. Now the same can't quite be said for video games, but I would argue that the first hour of gameplay is absolutely crucial in players deciding whether or not this is a game they want to invest their time into, and whether or not this is a story that they want to see through to the bitter end. While many players are quick to dismiss tutorial levels, I feel like they give you a really good snapshot of what the game is going to be like. They set the scene and the expectations of the game, and some games do it better than others. Now, there are so many games out there that have absolutely phenomenal introductory segments, but I've managed to narrow my list down to just 5 of the very best game introductions of all time, so let's jump right into it. This list is in no particular order, so let's start with Bioshock. The opening sequence for Bioshock is one of the most iconic on modern consoles, praised by both fans and critics alike. This eerie and thrilling opening act beautifully sets the scene for the rest of the game, and could definitely be considered a gaming masterpiece for its time. The game starts with a plane crash in which our protagonist Jack is the only survivor. He swims ashore to a nearby lighthouse, how convenient, in which he discovers a bathysphere terminal which brings him into Rapture. Now Rapture is an underwater city built by Andrew Ryan. His dream was to create a complete utopia, a land free from governmental and religious control, where science is truly able to thrive. But all is not quite what it seems. Although the journey to Rapture is stunning, as we emerge from the water, players are quickly greeted by the sounds of a person begging for their life to someone who is not entirely human. The person is quickly taken care of and the creature turns their attention to us. Although it seems like the game is going to be over before it even begins, the creature disappears just as our pod door opens, allowing us to make a break for freedom. Welcome to Rapture. Next on the list, we have Far Cry 3. At least one Far Cry game can usually always be found lurking in a gamer's library, but my personal favourite in the franchise is definitely Far Cry 3. The game starts out with Jason Brody and his friends holidaying in the fictional Rook Islands to celebrate his brother Riley getting his pilot's license. We see clips of the group living it up on jet skis, reenacting Titanic, and dancing in nightclubs, before a skydiving trip sees them accidentally land on an island controlled by pirates, who capture them and intend to sell them into the slave trade. I just love the juxtaposition between these two extremes, and I think this opening sequence is one of the most gripping in the franchise. Not to mention, we are introduced to Vass, who is one of the best gaming villains, I would say. Let's talk about Little Hope. As I've mentioned previously, I am a huge fan of Supermassive Games' narrative horrors, and while story-wise I don't think that Little Hope is the best, the game's introduction definitely is. The game starts out in a pretty dysfunctional 1970s family home. You play as Anthony, who has to deal with his parents arguing about the strange behaviour of their youngest daughter Megan, his father's alcohol abuse, as well as the economic impact of the factory that employs his father closing. You explore the home and talk to your family as they go about their business, but things soon take a dark turn when an unattended kettle in the kitchen causes a doll to catch fire. Flames rip through the house while you are trapped outside, and one by one you are forced to watch your family die. A bystander rushes over to try and help, only to discover you outside of the burning house with matches in your hand. Before he can even say anything, you run into the burning building to get to your family. The scene then changes to the graveside funeral of the entire household. The huge hook with these type of games is that your choices matter, and your decisions affect the narrative. And this complete and utter massacre of all the characters you've just met and interacted with, that was completely out of your control, is nothing short of shocking for players. Next up, we have Mass Effect 2. With the recent release of the Legendary Edition, which allows players to relive the trilogy on modern consoles, we're reminded of just how iconic the beginning of the second game is. The game starts out on the Normandy, your faithful ship from the first game, when you and your crew suddenly come under attack. Even with your stealth systems active, things escalate pretty quickly, and it becomes apparent that the only hope for your crew is to get into the escape pods. Joker, the captain of the ship, refuses to leave the Normandy. Shepard, forever the Paragon, makes their way through the damaged ship to get to the bridge. The complete destruction of the ship that you've come to love over the course of the first game is jarring, especially coupled with the utter silence of space that you have to navigate through in order to reach Joker. Shepard manages to get Joker loaded into an escape pod, but it's too late for them to join too. The Normandy is destroyed by the enemy ship, and an explosion sends us flying out into space. We have to sit there and watch, in silence, as Shepard takes their last panicked breaths before floating away into the darkness. Players are left reeling, watching their ship get destroyed and the hero of the first game unceremoniously flung into the vacuum of space. It's hard to watch, and it really does up the stakes for the rest of the game. The rest of the game now feels like a personal revenge mission. Finally, we have Mafia III. I know that I said this list is in no particular order, but I did save my favourite for last. Now, technically the scene that I would like to talk about comes in at the end of the game's introduction, but this is one of the most shocking scenes I've ever experienced in gaming, so I just had to include it. Lincoln Clay is the protagonist of the game, and he has just returned to New Bordeaux after fighting in Vietnam. He postpones his original plans to leave for California in order to help his adoptive father Sammy, who ran into some trouble with the Haitians. After killing the Haitian gang leader, Lincoln is approached by Sal Marcano and asked to take over leadership of the Black Mob from Sammy. Despite refusing, Lincoln is still brought in on Marcano's heist of the Federal Reserve, with Marcano's son Georgie. After the successful completion of the heist, everyone returns to Sammy's bar to split the money and to celebrate the start of their new lives. This does not last. The Marcano men betray the rest of the crew. Lincoln is shot in the head at point-blank range for refusing to take over the Black Mob, and he lies there helplessly while he watches his friends and family murdered in cold blood right in front of him. And the bar that he called home for so many years is set alight. Lincoln is luckily saved by Father Ballard, but this betrayal has set Lincoln and his former CIA contact Donovan on a new path, a path that is paved entirely of revenge. These cutscenes really set the tone for the rest of the game, and while Mafia 3 has its faults, the storytelling is not one of them. The dialogue, the music, the cinematography, they're all excellent, and these scenes will forever live rent-free in my head. Nothing will take away the impact that these scenes have originally had on me, and I also feel like no game introduction quite sets the player on side as Mafia 3. We have played about an hour of gameplay, and we've been forging friendships with these characters, we've been making strides in our life, and then suddenly, just as quickly as it's taken away from the characters, it's taken away from us. And we can entirely see why Lincoln acts the way that he does. Mafia 3 is by far the best game introduction I've ever played, and it is a shame that the rest of the game can't hold up to this standard. So there we have it. These are my picks for the 5 best game introductions of all time. Do you agree with my list? Are there any games that I've missed? Let me know down below. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed, and I will see you all in the very next video. Bye!